The passion, the energy, the power, the spirit of hardcore.
All right, how to hack the world. You know, us in general, we've been doing a lot of creative adaptations, creative fixes to things. But it really can go far, far beyond the electronic computer sort of stuff that we think of when people talk about hacking. There's a whole world out there, and it needs a lot of help. And there's a lot of things that we can do, and I want to talk about them. We have enough time here that I don't have to rush. So let's go through this, because it's really important. We have the opportunity to change things in a very significant way. Now, everything that everybody does every day changes the world. The question is how much, positive, negative, whatever, but everything everybody does changes the world. What goes on out there is an amalgamation of billions of choices of billions of people. So everything we do matters, but we can do better. And I think there's a lot of ability in our circles, and I think we should do better, because we can. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is hacking forward. This is Wayne Gretzky, who is considered by people who are really into hockey as the greatest hockey player ever, or at least one of the greatest hockey players ever. And the thing that they always say about what made Gretzky so great, because he wasn't the biggest, he wasn't the fastest, he didn't have the hardest shot, but he always got more goals, more points, more assists, everything than anybody else. So they said, everyone else skates to where the puck is. Gretzky skates to where it's going to be. Now, all good hockey players skate ahead of the puck, but Gretzky was much better at it than anybody else. And again, not the biggest, not the fastest, but he always found the spot. He was always hacking forward. He was looking ahead 2 steps. So while a lot of our effort has been to hack, to creatively solve problems that are facing us, which is, eminently understandable. I've done a lot of it myself. We've got to do that. But what we really want to do is go 2 steps ahead to see what's going to be coming and hack that in advance. Not as easy. You're going to be right sometimes, you're going to be wrong sometimes, but boy, do we get massive results when we're right. So this is the thing I want to look at. Hacking forward. Yes, we have to do the daily stuff. We have to address the, next week's, atrocity that we have to deal with. Okay, fine. But what we really want to do is this. Now, here's one of the first things that we really need to think about, is that it's ideas that run the world. It's not really violence. It's not really force. It's ideas that run the world. Let me explain this way. This is something called the Warka vase. It's in the Pergamon Museum in Berlin. You should go see it if you're there. It's a tall thing, and that's the surface of it, you can see. It's from somewhere between 3,000 and 4,000 BC, probably 3,600 would be my guess, but who knows. From Mesopotamia. And it shows the model of rulership that is still used today in pretty much every country on the planet. So there are basically 3 models of rulership that evolved over time in the ancient days. And again, I'll say this a lot, it's always complex. It's always a mess. Anything involving humans is always complex. So this is a synthesis. This is what really happened, more or less. The first model of rulership was just thuggery. Okay? Some guy realizes that there's portable wealth over here because people now are stable and growing crops, and they build things and they make things, leather and wood and everything else, and that there's crap they can steal. Well, they'll go and they'll steal it. That doesn't spread very far. It doesn't work very well. So they turned it into, we come once in a while at harvest time and take a whole bunch of crap, but not all of it, because otherwise the farmers will move away. So this is what we call the first model of rulership. And it required you to have thugs, and every once in a while a farmer would hit a thug with a shovel and kill him. So the thugs demand more money. And so it doesn't spread terribly far. It's in central Mesopotamia. The next model is to have a great legend, a terrifying legend. And this is where you read some of the ancient inscriptions where you say, and those who rebelled against me, I put out their eyes and did all kinds of horrible, terrible stuff. This is propaganda. It's compliance propaganda. Because if I know that this guy did that, I don't want that to happen to me. I sure as hell don't want it to happen to my kids and my wife. Holy crap, I'm just going to give him his piece. So you could extend rulership. Remember, we're talking about sociopaths here. We're talking about people who really don't give a damn if somebody else gets hurt. So then you can expand much farther. But even that had its limits. It was difficult, and it wasn't the thing that really worked. This is the thing that worked. It began in Mesopotamia about 5400 BC in a place called Eridu. I think that's the proper pronunciation. And what you see here is the idea of giving to the ruler because it's the right thing to do. I have to support the state, the god, the king, the pharaoh, whatever it is. And the details have changed 1,000 times. But here you see at the bottom the produce of the field. Does this thing have a pointer? Not really. You see the produce, the corn, the crops growing in the bottom, and of course the animals. Then you see the very fine farmers in the middle row carrying their stuff, and they're bringing it up to the temple, which is the seat of government, more or less, in those days. And you bring it in, and they're offering it up to the god and to the god's very fine sacrifice collector. Okay? But people did this because they thought that was the right thing to do. It was expected of them, of the god, or the ancestors, or the motherland, or fill in 1,000 different versions of it. This is the model that works for rulership. It's much, much cheaper. It's much more effective. It allows you to have a much larger system. So this is the model that works, and it is utterly dependent on ideas. It's utterly dependent on people thinking, this is the righteous thing I have to do. Okay? So it's ideas that run the world, and guess what? We're really good at ideas. How do you hack an idea? With another idea. So we're really good at these things, and I think that's something we need to keep in mind. Another advantage we have is that open plunder doesn't work anymore. Now, I'm going to say this, and then I'll explain what I mean. At some point in the past, good overcame evil in the human species. I know that sounds dramatic, but think about it this way. You cannot get somebody, almost anybody, in any sort of Western country, most of the world, almost everywhere, you can't get them to overtly do evil. I cannot meet one of you guys on the street this evening and say, hey, I got a hammer. See that guy over there? I'll bet he's got some money in his pocket. He's going to walk through that dark spot. Let's go hit him in the head and kill him and take his money. None of you are going to do that. Almost nobody who's out here walking the street is going to do that. I mean, there's some tiny little percentage, and they're probably on drugs, but almost nobody will do that. To get humans to do evil, you have to trick them. You have to get them somehow to believe it's the right thing to do. That's why all of these, whatever state hierarchy, whatever, when they want something bad to happen, they have to have some sort of higher purpose that must be protected. Some higher thing, some abstract concept that has to be the important thing. It's the law of our so-and-so. It's the wisdom of our founders. It's, you can fill in the blanks. There's 1,000 of them. There's a new one every year. Okay. They need that to trick humans into doing evil. They won't just do it themselves. You can't send people out, oh, go kill that guy. They won't do it. Even if you try to force them and you make them and throw them to a situation like war, where they have to kill somebody, they still often won't do it. And it's a very difficult thing to get humans to kill. All right. I already talked about the first part. Evil in our era can only succeed with misdirection and confusion. Like the work of a stage magician, it relies on smoke and mirrors, and the house lights are coming up. People are beginning to understand these things. 50 years ago, who really understood how denial worked in people? Not too many. Now, just not everybody does, but just about. Sociopaths. 50 years ago, people didn't really understand sociopaths. They knew there were people without a conscience, and they knew, there are some people that were really, really bad, but they didn't understand how it works. Now a whole lot of people understand how it works and how sociopaths are drawn to power. These are big things. So we've come a long way. The house lights are coming up. Again, not always as fast as we would like because, we want things to get better fast. But it doesn't always happen that way. But things are coming along. Now, hacking the state's ideas. I don't want to hack their power. I want to hack their ideas because that controls everything. This is a picture based upon a poem by Percy Shelley. How many have read Ozymandias? Oh, not too many. I highly recommend it. It's really short. You'll find it anywhere. It's a poem by Percy Shelley called Ozymandias, spelled probably the way you expect it to be spelled. And he says, I met a traveler from an ancient land, and he told me of this statue that he found. All that remains is the pedestal and a couple of legs and a head with a scowl on his face. And it says, I am Ozymandias, king of kings. Look upon all my works, ye mighty, in despair. And then he says, nothing else remains. There is nothing but vast sand for miles and miles in every direction. This is where every state goes. Where is Pharaoh? Where is mighty Rome? Where is the great Alexander? They're all gone. And everything we have now is going to share this same fate. They're all going away. This is an idea that we have to use, that I think we can use and need to spread, because that's the way it goes. You can love your homeland, whatever it is, but it's going to go away just like Pharaoh did, just like Caesar did, just like make a list, and it would be hundreds. They all come, they all dance on the stage and prance around for a while, and they all go. So we have to get rid of this idea that the state is some type of eternal, immortal thing. Sorry, it ain't. Now, again, hacking the state's ideas. I'm going to read this to you. It's not too long. This is about the fall of Rome, which didn't fall like people think. It was kind of evaporated. But anyway, great numbers of men and women were unwilling to make the effort required to maintain the old order. Not because they weren't good enough to fulfill their civic duties, but because they were too good to be satisfied with a system from which so few derived benefit. That's really what happened to Rome. People weren't willing to support it anymore. Now, they did the necessary public things they had to do to not get slammed, but they really couldn't put their heart into it anymore. And this is an idea that's important. From where I am in the States, if I had to, would I, find a weapon and risk my life to defend my neighbors? Yeah. My family? Well, of course. Maybe other things. But would I risk my life to defend the United States Department of Education? No way in hell. And list all the other organizations, the DHS and OSHA, and all there's hundreds and thousands probably of them. I'm not going to risk anything to defend that. Now, there's a lot of American people I would risk to defend because they're good people. But to defend those things, not a chance. That's what happened in Rome. people weren't willing to defend all those things anymore. A lot of them went over to the quote-unquote barbarians. Okay? It just wasn't worth it anymore. Okay, so this is also another thing we have to talk about and think about. What we've been doing is supplanting the inertia of obedience. You know, most people obey because they've always obeyed. I mean, my mom and dad did it. Were they idiots? My grandparents did it. Were they bad people? No, they probably weren't. They're probably good people. But, you know, they weren't perfect people because none of us are. And if they didn't understand something that we can understand now, we probably should anyway. Okay, so if people use our currencies, the system can no longer control human motivation. When you create fiat currency, when you can just make it up, you pour it over there, and all the people run over there. You pour it over there, all the people run over there. You can control human motivation. If you have currencies that won't do that, that can't do that, all of a sudden human motivation finds its own base. And it's not tossed around everywhere. If people homeschool their children, the system is devoid of pre-believing units, which is what you get from government schools. And over here, I know it's different. But in the States, 1 of 9 kids is homeschooled. Those are actually official numbers. I suspect it's actually higher. Where I live, there are ads. You know, we welcome homeschoolers. There's public libraries that have special, here's our homeschooler art program on Tuesday mornings. This is what's going on. And it's growing. This is going to have big effects 20 years down the line. Big effects. If people use anonymous communications, the manipulation complex runs out of data. That's really big. Because right now, the entire focus of manipulation in a whole lot of intelligence from intelligence agencies is all centered on social media. You can just take the feed and find out what billions of people are doing at once. So the system has maximized for that. So if all of a sudden people start non-complying, people start walking away, people not doing it, say, I don't want my mind screwed with. I want to be able to think. When I was on my way in from the airport yesterday, you know, the taxi driver turned on some kind of screen, you know, it had whatever, the attention grabbing a lady in, you know, a gold tight-fitting dress and, you know, and music. And I said, could you please turn that off? I want to be able to think my own thoughts. I want to be able to think. Okay. So that's what's going on, but if people drop out of it, and if 2% drop out, it gives more than a 2% effect on the system. We have that advantage. We have leverage in that way. Okay? The system isn't able to convince people to service it. Not well enough. You look at the way things go, everything big. It's not using human virtues, it's taking advantage of human weaknesses. They're afraid, they're intimidated. They're afraid that in the last 5 years, they're afraid of social pain. That's what it's been all about. So if you don't do this, people are going to hate you and they're going to say things about you, they're going to call you terrible things, and they're not going to allow you to do something. It's the application of social pain. Okay? They can't make a rational, reasoned argument why you need to support this, because if they do that, you're going to say, well, wait a minute, isn't there some other option here? You know, it's either you're going to have 5,000 different laws or you're going to have, you know, pollution in your baby soup. Yeah, okay, I agree with the no pollution in the baby soup thing, but isn't there some other way to do this besides the two? Oh. Then you get something. But the way they have it set up now, it's these binary choices. It's just flat out manipulation. They're taking advantage of human weakness. So the system isn't able to rationally convince people to service it. So if we break some of this inertia of obedience, things open up. Things open up a lot. Now, there is a problem with this, and that is something, I just call it the prime barrier or whatever. It's something I made up. And it's this, that people will complain all the time. Oh, the government did this, and the government did this, and I don't like it. But when the final moment comes, they'll find some kind of reason to go along. Sometimes the reasons are legit. Sometimes they're not, but they will find some reason. You know, it's like, I don't know if you guys ever saw it here. There was a cartoon with this crazy guy who would draw a line. And when you step over that line, I'm going to do something. Then the guy steps over. When you step over that line, I'm going to do something. And this is what happens with people. So there's a prime barrier to get across. And it is hormonal. I think I used this slide last year, so forgive me if I'm repeating. But this is, it doesn't really matter. This is the hormonal basis of hierarchy, status, and compliance. These are from baboons, who, by the way, share pretty much exactly our chemistry, so it works the same in us. But let me give you an example. You're invited to somebody's house for a cocktail party. Everybody's very nice. They have jackets on, and they're dressing very nicely, and they're talking, and it's a very, proper thinking, nice crowd. They're sipping their white wine, and some of the people there, oh, I know who that is. I know who that is. And you're talking to somebody, and you say, whatever, one of our things, Bitcoin or homeschooling or whatever it is, one of our things, decentralized something or another. And the highest and, richest and most powerful guy in the group turns. You said this, you're a buffoon, and everyone else, all the other proper nice people, oh, he said that. Oh, and he said that, and everyone turns and glares at you. That feeling you have in that moment is hormonal enforcement. You're dealing with these various, that is your hormone levels shifting, the glucocorticoids and all the various other things in your blood actually changing. And that's what happens. I mean, there's like experimental evidence behind all this stuff, okay? That is the compliance mechanism. That's the deep one. And to go to the extreme and say, no, I don't want the whole thing. I think the whole thing was a mistake. Then you're going against all of it. It's not just the level above and below you. You're going against a whole lot. And it's very difficult emotionally. And that's why people do when they cross that line. Well, when they cross that line. Because you don't want to go against all of this. It feels bad. So what we need to do, I love this picture. It's from, obviously, Berlin 30-some years ago. But we have to get through the barrier. And ultimately, what gets us through is faith. And I don't necessarily mean religious faith, although that certainly would apply as well. If you have a powerful purpose in your life, something you care about, from you, not you were told to care about, but something that grew in you, that you give a damn about, that you think is right, that blows through the barrier. That blows through it. Let me give you a story. It's funny what pops out of you every once in a while. I was asked several years ago to go somewhere and do some sort of interview on cypherpunks because they were going to put out some sort of documentary on cypherpunks, and I was there, not at the very beginning, but through a lot of it. And I said, okay, fine, I'll come. Ultimately, I ended up on the cutting room floor, but I showed up, and the guy who interviewed me was very nice, and we were talking about all these various things that happened and my involvement in Cryptohippie, which was a cypherpunk company, and the things we did. And the guy, who was very nice, at one point he says, yeah, but with everything else going on, you were so much against the world. Yeah, we can see now that you guys are right, but at the time, didn't you really wonder, gee, are we really right? And just popped out of me. I said, no. And I'm going, oh, did I just say that like that? I said, we knew we were right. wow, I guess I really did say that. And I'm thinking, I said, well, you never know what the world's going to do. But we knew we were right. And we did know we were right. And it's that kind of faith that blows through the barriers. Okay? Whenever it is that this is properly researched, and I've never seen anything on it that I can point, there's nothing on it I can point to, that whenever it's really researched, belief, I think, is going to be found out to be pre-commitments of will, reservoirs of will, reservoirs of decision that are what we need to get us through the difficult times. Okay? So when we're under attack, when the very, very rich and arrogant SOB at the cocktail party starts coming after us and calling us all sorts of names, we need that reservoir to draw upon. We need things that we believe for our reasons, not because somebody told us we should, but for our reasons, things that formed inside of us. We need that to bring us through. Everyone does. And this, again, is something that we have to encourage and, first of all, build in ourselves and talk to other people about so they can do it too. All right. Another thing I found useful is this little phrase. Because when you start talking about certain things, I was talking to a guy on a plane yesterday, and he says, he was asked about Bitcoin. We were talking about stuff, and I threw in, I said, most Bitcoiners probably, probably think maybe it would be better if we had no government at all. Things would be sloppy, things would be a little messy in the exchange, but it might be better. And he said, I think that's going to happen. Maybe not in my time, but in my kids. Wow, that's interesting. But when most people start getting onto that, they get afraid. Things are going to break. Things are going to go collapse. Things are going to get bad. There could be another Hitler. There could be, and they got all this stuff that comes up, and you go, it's okay. Things will reset afterwards. Things will reform. And I think about it when I'm standing here. I'm in Prague. What was this place like 40 years ago? It was under Soviet domination. The USSR went away. Did things go absolutely to hell? No. There's still problems, but they're less bad. I don't think very many people would want to go back to the USSR. I mean, some party members, but outside of that, it didn't get so terrible. And that was the mighty USSR with, so many thousand nukes and everything else. Things will reset afterwards. Again, it's always complicated, but they will. So this is something that I've used with some success. It's okay. Things will reset afterwards. Look around you. From where I live, who are the people who live around you? They're the people who make everything. They're the people who you make and repair and grow everything. Well, they're going to keep working. It's okay. We'll reset afterwards. Okay, hacking commerce. This is something we've done. And we've done, in my opinion, a hell of a job of it. You can go down the list. Cryptography, darknets, Bitcoin, Monero, stablecoins, Lightning, Fedimint, which, by the way, was started right here in this spot. The very first presentation on it, which began as Scrit, was right here. We've done all of these things, and they're coming along really well. I know a lot of times people we tend to be purists, okay? And I'm including myself, because no one has had these feelings as much as I have at various times. But we look at things like Bitcoin and we say, yeah, but. And the buts aren't wrong. Oh, yeah, but look at Wall Street. It's coming in at Wall Street and they're taking it over and they're trying. It's okay. It's okay. Our job is to make good things and to put them into the world. The world is going to do what the world does. We can't control that. But I want to tell you what, with several things. We have set the terms of the debate. There is a leading presidential candidate in the US right now who is going around a month before an election telling all sorts of people he's going to be good to Bitcoin and he's going to take care of Bitcoin. He's promising that he's going to free Ross Ulbricht. Okay? Okay? Right now. So he's doing all of this right now. Yeah, okay, it's a politician, and you never know what a politician's going to do. You know, they say... Yeah, right, whatever. Right. So right now, we've set the terms of the debate. That's big. Now, look, the world is going to do what the world does. It's weird, it's sloppy, it's ugly, it's whatever else. That we can't control that. We set the terms of the debate. That's a big, as we used to say, that's a big-ass deal. Okay? We set the terms of the debate. Not here, perhaps, but in the States, we set the terms of the debate with homeschooling. We did. People are talking about it everywhere. Some hate it, some like it, whatever. Like I say, 1 in 9 American kids is now homeschooled. Major political figures, Tulsi Gabbard, if anyone knows who she is, she's a homeschool kid. She was homeschooled. Okay? So this is what's going on, and we are increasingly setting the terms of the debate. Now, if we don't like what's going on with Bitcoin being accepted on Wall Street and all that stuff, and look, it's not what I would have planned 10 years ago, but so it is, and if we don't like that, let's move 2 steps ahead. And hack that. Let's hack ahead and fix that problem. Where's it going to go? Okay, let's go fix that before they get there. How about that? Those are the kind of things we need to do. And we need to keep doing this. This is my little contribution. I wrote an issue of my newsletter on this. It's just an idea about the ability to keep conducting practical matters of commerce after the Ozymandias moment, after the thing kind of breaks up and all of a sudden international commerce has to continue and the conduits whereby it used to work are gone. This is essentially a way of taking the Bitcoin infrastructure, not the blockchain. I'm not putting anything else on the blockchain. I don't want anything else on the blockchain. I'm talking about the tech, the programming that's already been done, cloning it, taking it, and building something like this. I think it's a great idea, but you guys can make your own choices. We want to hack imagination. It's really important to when you study things, history. I mean, I spent a lot of time on history. Human imagination, or European imagination, began to change in the 17th century. A big part of it was the finding of North and South America, North America in particular. South America was pretty much controlled by the slavers. North America was not. North America was really controlled by economics. The Dutch East India Company, whatever it was, one of those, and all sorts of things. This is where the crazy people had a place to escape to in North America. So imagination began to open up because there was somewhere else to go. You could go and do what you wanted, and you didn't have to be part of the system, such as it was then, such as it is now. That was a big deal. You have to have an image of someplace else to go, some other thing, some new, better way. Otherwise, a lot of people, won't get it. So what I first want to talk about is this. We have overcome scarcity. Technologically, in our libraries, in all sorts of things, we have enough information to feed the entire world times some multiple. 1.5, 1.9, 2.6, I don't know. You can argue about that stuff all day. This is a graph from 1990 when they're showing how much production has been foregone. Production that was easily known how to do, that we didn't produce because there was no one to eat the food. Why grow double the amount of wheat if there's no one to eat it? Here's another proof, again from 1990. Whoops, pardon me. Well, no, until 1980s. These are the price of wheat indexed by wages. So how much of the average person's wage was required to get 1 bushel of wheat? It's almost flatlined. I mean, it's never going to go to 0 because somebody has to work to grow the wheat and they need some recompense for it. But it's just almost flatlined. Here's the same thing for copper up to 1980. And this is 40 some years ago. What about now? We know easily how to grow enough food for everybody. We know easily how to build enough houses for everybody. We've got the entire infrastructure, not only the ability and the resources, but the people to do it. We have the trainers to train people to do it. We've got all that stuff. It's already in place. We've got enough. We easily know how to provide basic medical care for everybody. Okay? It's not happening everywhere because of these giant bottlenecks that regiment human cooperation, aka nation states and 2,000-page free trade agreements. But we know easily how to do this. It's not a problem. The problem is people aren't used to it, and they just don't know. But that's what we have to work on, to explain that this is already here. And if the systems we have won't allow this to come to some millions of people, well, the problem is the system. The tech is there. We already know. It's already done. We're improving on it, but we had it all done to do this in 1990. Okay? There are some experiments done about scarcity and not scarcity. It was a brilliant set of experiments done with farmers before the harvest, at planting time, when they were really out of everything. They had all the corn that they had saved. They had to plant it all, and they're just waiting for the crop to come in, hoping that the rains hold up. And then after the harvest, they tested the same exact people when they had, overflowing with grain. Okay? Same guys. When the financial fears were absent, cognitive processing increased equal to 13 or 14 IQ points. That's the difference. That's what's on the other side of scarcity. Intelligence and executive control, another test equal to 8 or 9. Executive control tests, the farmers were 11% faster to respond and made 15% fewer errors when they were prosperous. The same guys, the same exact individuals in the different conditions. This is what waits on the other side of scarcity for everyone. And it's easily done. Again, the science, the technology, it's all done. We just can't implement it that far inside the current hierarchies that be. It hasn't allowed them in 30 or 40 years, so what more proof do we need? We had guys on the moon in 1969. I've met a couple of them. These were real human beings. 1969, we had men on the moon. How many people in this room were born before 1969? Hey. Well, me too, but we're the minority now. Okay? It's not difficult. Is technology easier, or is it easier or harder now? Cheaper or more expensive? What's far easier and far less expensive? Your cell phone has hundreds of times more power than the computers that landed on the moon. Easily. Okay? It's easier now. This is available to us technologically right now. This is a big thing. I won't talk about it too long. I did talk about this several years ago too. This is, you can see this same effect in natural history museums. This is something that happened roughly 2 million years ago that is unique in the fossil record or in the anthropological record. Human brain capacity went nuts beginning, call it 2 million years ago. No one knows exactly the date. No one knows exactly why, even though you can get the evolutionary biologists to saying whatever had happened was something unique. And you can see, like, go to the third one up there, Homo habilis. Look, they've got an eyebrow ridge, and then the head goes directly back. And if you look at us, Homo sapiens, we've got these high foreheads. And it's not just that brain size changed, it's brain configuration. And right here, right inside here, is where we have a prefrontal cortex, which allows us to do all the incredible things we can do. Okay. We can imagine on purpose. We can play movies in our head of what will happen if I do this and this and this. We have an interior universe, which is what we got with the prefrontal cortex. We became a new kind of creature. Okay? And that happened at 2 million years ago. Now, who can say what it was? Because, there aren't a whole lot of records. We don't know. But we do know what happened. And we can project from what happened where we're going and what types of changes we can expect and what kind of changes we've had. Now, it's a long subject. I wrote a book on it. Have fun. You'll like it. But that is a new way of looking at human history. And it's absolutely true. It did happen. We've got the skulls, we've got the stones, we've got everything. We've got the results staring us in the face every day. So this is a completely new way of looking at history, and it's something that really needs to be done. And there's other ways too. This is just the one that sticks out to me. We also need to hack communications. This is a great quote from Marshall Rosenberg, no relation that I know of, who studied human problem solving, human fights and reconciliation and what happens. And he was very serious and spent a long time doing it. And I'm going to read this to you twice. If it were me in the audience, I would close my eyes and just try to soak this in, but you do whatever you want. But this is really important. Our words, and more importantly, our thoughts, are locked into a language of dominance in terms that can only resolve into winner and loser, right and wrong, dominant and submissive. And if you think about it, you'll see that this is exactly what goes on. You can see it flaming in flaming colors when people argue about things. Our words, and more importantly, our thoughts, are locked into a language of dominance in terms that only resolve winner, loser, right, wrong, dominant, submissive. This is a big deal. And once people begin to work on this and to take it seriously, and vocabulary and way of thinking and looking at things begins to change, a lot of the things that we don't like just start falling down. Because this is their foundation. And once we start pulling stones out of that foundation, things change. And things change dramatically. And it's going to be the time when we really have to step up. Okay. Now, changing our perspective. We're doing okay on time? Yeah, good, okay. I'm going to tell you
12 minutes.
12 minutes? Aye. Well, I'm going to tell you the story anyway. This is something that's been in my head for a long, long time. When I was about 18 years old, we had a family friend, close family friend, who was a doctor, a physician. And respected man, good husband, good father, a good man. And the people in my family were rather surprised to find at some point that I had a very strong spiritual streak. And this was something of a problem, not because I was raised as an atheist. My parents were not hardcore, professional atheists. But when I was, 8 or 10 years old, and I said, hey, what's this God thing? I got the story about, lightning and cavemen and ignorant reactions, and they needed, that sort of thing. Okay. So later on, when I began to be otherwise, it was a surprise, shall we say. I ended up in this doctor's exam room, and very, very, very private setting. And he came in, he just wanted to talk to me. And he got this kind of far-off look on his face. It was very strange, because I'm an 18-year-old boy. This guy's 55 or whatever he was, and a respected man, you know. And he said, he stopped, and he got a really far-off look, and he said, something happened to me in the war, which was World War II. He was a very young soldier thrust into the aftermath of D-Day. So he was tossed onto the beaches and after the worst of the fighting on that day. But he was the follow-up, and he was fighting his way with his friends across France to go all the way into Germany. And it was just as horrific as you can imagine it was. And he says, you know, we were there, me and another soldier, and he kind of hung his head and he said, we were doing a lot of very bad things. Okay. And then he told me the story. And this was like a pivotal moment the pivotal moment of his life. He said, you know, we had to make some sort of deal, some kind of, you know, black market sort of exchange or something like that in some little farmhouse in France somewhere. And he said, you know, we had been doing very bad things. We came in here to make this deal, and we made it with the other people there. But there was an older man who was just standing there, and he was just observing us, just watching. Didn't say a word. He says he didn't judge us. He just watched us and looked at us. And I'm an 18-year-old boy, okay? I mean, I'm not really getting what's going on. And he says, you're like that man, aren't you? I don't know. I'm 18. I mean, I wasn't stupid, but I lacked a lot of context. And I didn't know what to say. I knew this was like supremely important to this man. So I couldn't say, I don't know what you're talking about. I said, I suppose so. And, you know, but that moment was the moment of his life. The old Frenchman who was standing over there in the corner, he could have easily condemned them. He could have easily said, you're doing this, I saw you do that, you did this, you were bad, you all those things. He had legit reason, but he didn't. Because I think he understood, first of all, he had been in the middle of war too, and you know what war does to people. And because that man did not judge him, this man had the ability to go back and reform himself and to become a loving husband, a good father, a very competent and important physician. All because that guy didn't tear him apart. I think that's something that I had to get in my head. It took me a long time to grasp this. Because there's a lot of context, the man's expression, the way he acted, the way I saw him before and after. I knew this guy all my life. We need to do that when we look out at people. When we see people doing stupid things, when we see stupid policy, people believing stupid things and trying to enforce it on their relatives and everything like that, life is long. People in difficult circumstances do stupid things. They can come out of it. They can become something better. Give them the chance. We need to do these things. Now, let me get to the end here because we're almost out of time. We need to understand that we've been right. We are right. We've been right. Not in every little detail. We make stupidities just like everybody else. The golden rule, decentralization, okay? Honest money, free education, free thinking, free speech. We've been right on everything like this. We need to understand that we're right. You know, I look back at some of my old writing and I go, okay, it's pretty good, but there's an element of it that I didn't like, is that I was having to excuse myself. I was having to say, well, you know, I think this, and you can't counter-argue this, and I spent way too much time making myself unassailable in my writing. Forget it. We're right. We don't have to defend ourselves to that depth. We've already made our case. We've made it publicly. We've made it for a long time. Those who want to know will come along. We don't have to spend our lives defending everything because we're right and we've been right. Okay, we have to act like we know that. Let them do what they will. The world will do whatever it wants to do. People know what we believe. Those who will come along will come along. Okay, last big quote. This one's from G.K. Chesterton. As a writer, it's one of those things I wish I would have said. It said, every one of the great revolutionists from Isaiah to Shelley have been optimists. They've been indignant, not about the badness of existence, but about the slowness of men in realizing its goodness. We can do so much more, have so much more, be so much more. The systems of thought in which we've found ourselves are contrary to forward movement, are contrary to developing into what we can be. There's a whole world, giant world waiting for us. Once we get past some of the ridiculous notions of, the few ruling the many and all the crap we complain about, we can do far better. And so our really focus shouldn't be about, all the bad things that are happening. I mean, to some extent, we have to deal with that. But the real problem is there's so much more, and no one's opening the door and going into it. Hey, guys, look at this. We need this. We want this. Don't you want your children to have this? These are the things we need, because it's there. It's there right now. Okay? So we carry right here, right now, with all of our occasional errors, we carry the substance of a better future right now. It's our obligation to put this into the world. We have to do this. Thank you very much.
I'm gonna use a Rasta quote since I got the dreadlocks now. Free yourself from mental slavery. To what degree do you think that the algorithms and the hormonal state has contributed contemporaneously in the last decade or two to this inability to break out from a collective sort of dystopian mindset?
Right. I think social media and the algorithms and all of that are a big problem. It's like what I was talking about coming in from the airport. The guy flipped on a screen. I said, turn it off, please. I want to think my own thoughts. Okay. Social media hijacks your thoughts. Sorry, I don't want to be rude. It just does. That's its job. That's how they get paid. And what they really want is to see you, how you think and how you react within an environment that they set up as controlled for you. And they want to see how you respond to it and how they can then learn how you react and set it up so that you'll go A, B, C the way they want you to go. Okay? I don't like it, okay? I think it's really bad. I think TV was a mass, I don't want to say manipulation, but it affected people en masse, large masses. Social media is a step beyond. And I don't think it's going to last forever. I think, our grandchildren are going to look at it and go, whew, they did that? Okay? It's like in the States anyway, with smoking. People don't smoke in the United States anymore. I mean, there's a few. But I was at a party, a week or two ago. It's like, oh, somebody's smoking a cigarette. Huh, haven't seen that in a while. Okay, so these things come and go. I don't expect social media to last forever. And I think it's a problem. I think it really is. What was the other part of it? That and what?
And the hormonal.
Oh, the hormonal. The hormonal thing, we're stuck with that. Okay, that's in our body chemistry, but it's okay. We're also stuck with other things in our body chemistry, competition and fighting over resources. Somebody says something stupid at a cocktail party. I don't grab something and hit them on the head because I restrain myself because I know it's stupid. If we're going to do that, cooperation breaks down, and we can't have, central heat. We can't have grocery stores. We can't have anything if cooperation breaks down. So we restrain ourselves. You know, somebody says something stupid, I don't slap them because it would destroy my life support system. Well, it's the same thing with the hormonal levels. We'll figure out how to control them and how to deal with them.
And then I have one more question. I think it's become clear that institutions and states have become absolutely captured by capital, no matter where it is that we look on the planet, at any social organization, any ism, and that we've focused our arguments oftentimes at the institutions of democracies because we believe that we have a choice and believe that the legal system would work. As Julian Assange just said in his most recent interview here in Europe, that his mistake was actually believing that he was in a space in the law that the law would support. So my question is, and I'm not asking this from a Marxist perspective, I'm just asking this from a 2024 perspective. If corporations and capital are our enemy, and they've captured the organs of state right up to the Supreme Court in America, we know what the corruption is. Where should we be directing our outreach, right? So you repeat that we've been right about many things. So where does our outreach go in this climate?
Okay, so there's two parts of that. One is to blame either government or capital entirely is incorrect. And you can't blame capital really entirely because there's two parts of the transaction. There's the guy buying the law, and there's the guy selling the law. If the guy wasn't selling the law, the guy wouldn't ever be able to buy it. So it's kind of they all work together. The problem we had in economics was when free market capitalism became a thing. Let's call it 1980, which was wonderful. When it came along, it was like, oh my God, this is great, because before then it was pretty commie. And that came along, and it was really a good thing. What I didn't realize was that there were a lot of people who were going to say, free market, anything goes, there is no morality, no matter what I do, if it's in the market, it's okay. No, it's not. You can do a lot of nasty things in a market. You can certainly do nasty things that are legal, especially if you get to write the laws. And I've known people who had laws written for them, who paid, and I can tell you who they were and who they paid, that had laws written for them. Okay? So it's a big problem, and it's a problem on both sides, and we need to inject morality back into the marketplace. It's not okay just because it's a free market. It's not. It can be good. I mean, free markets are better than controlled markets, or, duh, but it's not the panacea. You also have to have morality somehow. Who we support? We just support people who we think are doing good and give them. I don't want to support Wall Street. I don't want to support DC. I don't want to do either because they're either corrupt or corruptible, and I don't see any particular need for them anyway. So stop playing the game and support people that you care about, that you think are doing good, that you value. That's pretty much where I come down.
Paul Rosenberg, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.